सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you, Vijayji, for inviting me here and for the very apt introduction, which reiterates the point of our study, that this is not about a personality. This is not about some charismatic personality with a lot of pizzazz coming and telling something. This is about a tradition which is timeless, a timeless and living tradition that is here to fulfill the basic need of humanity, the basic want, and we'll talk about that a lot more. So thank you. It is a great honor and privilege to be here and to share whatever has been received from Pujya Swamiji, and that is really all we can do. And it has been wonderful to see the process, how all these talks were planned with so much care, with so much attention. And I was telling Vijayji that he has trained everybody very well, and we see his silent and yet effective leadership, and very happy to witness that. Very happy to be part of this, and delighted to be here. In terms of the text that we will be studying in the next three, including this one, evening talks, it is not something that is unfamiliar to you. I'm told that it was already begun a few years back, I think by Swami TVG, who was here. And it is Vedanta Dindima. And I think that up to verse 36 or something was done. But I was told it's better to begin afresh, because one thing we know about Vedanta, we always make a fresh start every day. And so that's always nice to start from the beginning. And so that is what we will be doing. We don't really need a text to talk about this. We can simply talk. The text is a way to connect. That's what it is. We can simply talk, because it's really the same thing. What the text says and what the Shabda Pramana that Vijayji talked about in his introduction, that's what the text does. And different texts have different ways of highlighting certain parts of the Shastra, which is itself a signature of that particular text. Even certain Upanishads, there is it is Tvam Pada Pradhana. It is heavily on the analysis of what is the tatparya, the purport of the word you in Tattvamasi, Tvam Pada Pradhana. And then there are certain others, that is Tat Pada Pradhana. Even the Mahavakyas are like that. And the secondary texts, of which there are many varieties. And what we are going to study comes under the classification of something called Prakarana Grantha. A text, a secondary text that expounds the ideas of the Upanishad, all the Upanishads, in a systematic manner. And that systematic manner is important for the person who is studying and trying to get a grasp, a hold of what are these ideas. I mean, Vedanta sounds wonderful, but how do I catch a hold of it? How do I go with this, and what is the flow? This is why the Prakarana Granthas are very invaluable, because they teach us how to see this and how to assimilate this in their very unfoldment. And then there are other Granthas, like the Advaita Makaranda. I'm sure you're familiar with the name, and that is more of a Manana Grantha. It is a meditative, work where a number of doubts are dismissed, and in fact the author follows a very ingenious, in 28 verses, he follows an ingenious method where the first line is a postulate and the second line dismisses every other possibility there completely. Very beautiful. So we have Nididhyasana Granthas also, like the famous Adi Shankara's Pratasmarami. Pratasmarami Hridisam Spuradatma Tattvam. In the morning I recall. What do we recall in the morning? What day is it? What do I have to do? Long weekend, I can sleep. Oh no, Vedanta, I have signed up for a retreat. No. This is not the Pratasmaranam. Adi Shankara's Pratasmaranam is completely different. Pratasmarami, in the morning, I recall what? Who I really am. I'm not this body-mind-sense complex. I'm not the sense organs. I'm not the organs of action. I'm not the doer. Neither am I the done-in. And so what am I? I'm that which is the content, the truth of even the I thought, that refuses to shut up. That is some spurat, that is always present as I, the content of that thought, the truth of that thought. This is who I am. So this is what is called a Nididhyasana, a work that helps us to go within and enjoy, to chew the cud of whatever has already been taught. So like this is a plethora of various kinds of texts. But we really don't need the texts. But the texts are invaluable for the reason that they systematically unfold and drive home what we have to assimilate. And the other reason the text is very, very useful from the standpoint of the jiva is that it gives us a feeling of accomplishment. 94 verses, Vedanta Dindima, I have completed. Yay! It's a feeling. One more text is under the belt. One more Upanishad is under the belt. And then you recall having gone and listened and having gone and listened repeatedly, and then one more verse gone, one more verse finished, and then finally, we count down 10, 9, 8, 7, and then finally it's done. It's a feeling of accomplishment. And the Shastra recognizes it. And the Shastra, gives some credence to that, because from the standpoint of the person, we cannot say that they are now ajnanis, but in the process of becoming jnanis, or at best jnani wannabes, that is also, So from that standpoint, this matters. It matters to have something to hold on to and something to sort of refer to. And that's why the text is, is very nice to refer to. And so we will be looking at a text called Vedanta Dindima. And even though here it is two words. You will see if you have a handout that there is a small dash between Vedanta and Dindima, which makes it what? Actually, one word. Vedanta Dindima. Dindima means drum. Actually, we say drum beat, but really speaking, it means drum. You have to understand the beat from the fact that the drum is not just there to, as a showcase, as a showpiece. It has a form, it has a function. So, Vedanta Dindima is a compound word. Shashti Tat Purusha, kind of a simple compound. A genitive case compound, if you want to put it in English. What is this compound? Just like we say, the Kodanda, that would be like more of a Bahudri. If we say Ramasya Dhanuhu, Kodandaha, So instead of saying Ramasya Dhanuhu, you swallow the genitive case, Sya Rama Dhanuhu, So then that is like what we call this genitive case compound. The bow belonging to, possessed by, connected to who? Lord Rama. Very simple, And then similarly here, the drum of Vedanta. Very nice. Or if you want to put it this way, Vedanta's drum. Vedanta's apostrophe S, we'll see what Vedanta is. Vedanta's drum. One way of looking at it. But Sanskrit is a very elastic language. It's like taffy. You know taffy? Yeah? Not toffee, although they are similar, but I'm talking of taffy. So, it's something that you pull and push, and there is some machine and you can see it. It's very mesmerizing. You can keep on seeing it being made, and you keep on pulling it. I think it's just some flour and sugar, basically. And you keep on pulling it into various shapes. The Sanskrit language is like that. And so, if you know a little bit, you can do some fun things with it and eke out and press various meanings. Of course, it should be in keeping with the rules of the language. Otherwise, it is what is called Kapola Kalpitam, a case where the skull starts to think. We don't want that. We want what is in the skull to think. So, this is, so we get another derivation, Vedanta Dindima. So, here this derivation, I'll talk in Sanskrit first, Karmani Shashti. Karmani Shashti means it's a kind of an object derivation. In the first instance, we had Vedanta's drum or Vedanta's drum beat, correct? And so, who does the drum belong to? It belongs to Vedanta. Whatever that Vedanta is. So, Vedanta is personified as an agent in the first instance. Who is the possessor of this drum or the beat of the drum? The agent Shashti, Kartari Shashti. But you can have it also where the Vedanta is no longer the agent but the object of the drum. The drum beat of Vedanta. In other words, the drum beat for which the subject matter is Vedanta. Very nice. This is Sanskrit. You can do the same thing. This is, you see, it's very nice because you can see where all these kinds of things can apply immediately. You see the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, same thing. Bhagavataha Gita. Actually it is Gitam, but we make it Gita to make it feminine because that which gives knowledge, Shruti, is Mother Shruti, the goddess of knowledge, feminine. So that the song, the Lord's song, Bhagavad Gita, very nice. But then there is always a pun, and that's the fun of Vedanta. And what is the pun? What is the pun here? What is the second derivation we can do in Bhagavad Gita? The song for which the subject matter is Ishvara, the Lord. See, same thing. Vedanta Dindima, Bhagavad Gita, exactly same thing. So you can have two meanings. Vedanta is the agent, which is the drum beat, which is, telling us what we have to know. Or Vedanta is the subject matter. If you derive the meaning of the beat of the drum, what you get is Vedanta. Both ways, it applies. And most of these Prakarana Granthas, we don't know the author. And conveniently we say what? Shankaracharya. Who wrote Vivek Chudamani? Shankaracharya. Adi Shankara, of course, we all say that. Who wrote Bhavani Ashtakam? Adi Shankaracharya. Everything. Who wrote this, who wrote that? Some of this, who wrote Bhajagovindam? Shankaracharya. You can't go wrong. If anybody is asked a question, who wrote this, and if you say Shankaracharya, you cannot go wrong at all. It's a no-brainer. And that also, highlights something beautiful about the parampara, where we do not have this concept of either intellectual property rights or their taking away, their appropriation. It was not there at all. You didn't have this idea. And even in the Upanishad, in the Kenopanishad, when the teacher is asked, oh my God, how do you know this? The teacher himself says, Yenastad vyachachakshire. We only teach what we have learnt from our gurus, who learnt from their gurus. All the way up to Narayana, all the way up to Sadashiva. Doesn't matter, it's very beautiful. And so here, the way in which the texts unfold show that. And that's why there is no author. We never thought that we should write our name and then put a little C inside a circle, trapped in a circle. That means copyright. Knowledge cannot be copyrighted. Knowledge simply is. And that's why what is that called? The Nobel Prize is often shared between 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 people. Why? Because one scientist was sitting here in America, one scientist was somewhere in Europe, the other one was somewhere in China. And without really collaborating, they came with that same idea. That itself shows it neither belongs to the Chinese scientist, nor the European scientist, nor the American scientist. Knowledge belongs to Ishvara. It is Ishvara. It's a manifestation of Ishvara. And so, really speaking, you can't put a copyright on the knowledge. And in the spirit of, adoring Adi Shankara, worshipping Adi Shankara, and showing utmost reverence, all the acharyas in the tradition, said this was written by Adi Shankara. And so, all the Prakarana Granthas, most of them, we really have to see, maybe Drik Drishya Viveka, Vidyaranya Swami, we can see. But other than that, most of them, Adi Shankara, Adi Shankara, Adi Shankara. So what about Vedanta Dindima? Fortunately, we know who wrote this. It is a Shankaracharya, but not Adi Shankara. One of the acharyas in the Sringeri tradition. Adi Shankaracharya established 4 mathas. Mathas, right? Pithas, centers of learning all over the place, and Sringeri is one such center of learning, where the surname, and this is where our sannyasis in the Arsha Vidya tradition derive our connection is with Sringeri. The surname is always Saraswati, because it's a lineage. It's a sub-lineage which is dedicated to knowledge. And so, not surprisingly, we have numerous scholars in this particular, branch, in the Sringeri branch. Numerous scholars, highly erudite. And if you go there, you see, all the photos. Some, of course, this was time before selfies and all these were possible. But they have drawings, paintings. Even even made up paintings of what some of the earlier acharyas would have looked like. It doesn't matter. Paintings that were made up from lores, from people who were there from accounts, from contemporary accounts. But you see the whole unbroken tradition, you can see. And each one, it's just amazing. And in the, sometime in the 15th century, we have Swami Nrisimha Saraswati. And sometimes he is known as Nrisimha Bharati. It doesn't matter. It's referring to one of the acharyas in the Sringeri lineage who wrote this text of 94 verses. And very little is known about this acharya. See, when we have a book, we are always curious. What do we know about the author? When you go to buy a book, you immediately turn to the last page, the back cover, and you want to read the blurb. What did they like? Who is he, she? What did she write? What did he say? Which book is this? How many books have they already written? But here, if we were to look at the back cover of Vedanta Dindima, we would just find one or two lines. We don't know much about this acharya except for the fact that he was very sage-like in his childhood. Did not speak till the age of 8 or 9. And the parents were worried, very worried. And then somebody looked at the horoscope, and suggested that they should do the, what is that called? Upanayana, French ceremony, initiation into the Vedas for this boy, for this child, and all will be well. This is what the astrologer said and went away. So they did the Upanayana, the thread ceremony was performed, and before he could be given the Gayatri Mantra, which is the first introduction to the Veda, and the boy started to chant the Gayatri Mantra on his own. And then after that he started to spout out the whole Upanishads, all the Vedas, all completely. And this was a surprise because until then it was almost like he was waiting to be activated with the thread ceremony, and it gave him permission to do this. And then at age 9 or 10, soon after this, he just said one day to his parents, I don't see the point of living at home because, extreme vairagya, this passion set in, and he just went off, wandered off, and then later was found by the reigning pontiff before him, I don't recall his name, and then he was put on the pitha. This is what, Nrisimha Bharati or Nrisimha Saraswati, that's all we know. And at some point he composed this verse, this book of verse called Vedanta Dindima. It is very beautiful, very rhythmic, nice to chant, because right at the outset, you already know 1/4 of the verse. Fantastic. And what is 1/4 of the verse? Iti Vedanta Dindima. See, you already know 1/4 of 94 verses, all of them. All of them end like this. And one feels, how nice. Instead of worrying about what to remember, how to remember all this. This is already there. All you have to do is say, Iti Vedanta Dindima. Come on, sing it. Show some signs of life. It's okay. Iti Vedanta Dindima. And the word Dindima is just so, onomatopoeic. Yeah, onomatopoeic means exactly how it sounds. The drum beat. It's like a made-up word, Dindima. Dindima means drum. You have this big, what is called dheri, like a kettle drum. And then it has a taut, like an animal skin cured, put on it, tightened with the help of some screws or some, band of another animal skin on it. And then you have 2 sticks, and then you put it on your neck. And this is what comes out is this drum beat, Dindima. In the olden days, before Twitter, and before, what else do we have? Facebook, correct? And before all this social media, by which you would tell people what to do and start a trend and wonder if a dress was gold or blue. People, what should I say, really worry about a lot of things. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I commend you for it. So, but this was a huge thing on Twitter. They fight about what is, they look at something, some kind of an optical illusion, and just sort of, instead of doing their work, worry about what this really is all about. It's a huge waste of time. But nonetheless, Twitter also was forced to increase from 140 to 280 characters because they found that people had a lot to say. And this is one way of sharing instantly. So if you are somewhere in Timbuktu and tell a lie, it is all over Twitter, especially if you are a person who is a visible person. Yeah. This way many lies are coming out. Yeah. And, so like this, in those days there was no Twitter. And there was only this, what was followed in the ancient time. If you wanted to make an announcement of some, big thing coming, if you wanted, like the king or some important personage wanted to make an announcement, you would hire these, what are they called? Town criers. And this is not just in India, we find this in the Shakespearean times, in England, in so many places. Some drum was there. It involved somebody with a nice booming voice to match the drum, and then the king's man would come, and this town crier would be hired, and his job was to wake up the people and have at least a few people assemble. Otherwise, no fun. What's the point of tweeting if nobody is listening? So some people have to stand, and then, a lot of noise would be made. And then, following this drum beat would be the proclamation. From now on, you owe the king more taxes. Not a very happy thing. Or from now on there is a bonus. Very happy. Nonetheless, something very important. Some kind of a policy was made, something worth talking about very, very loudly was what was communicated through these town criers. In fact, we still have them. They've just modernized a little bit. Now 2019 in India is an important general election year. And you'll see this, if at any time in the first half of the year, if you go to India, you'll see especially the small towns, they will hire this auto rickshaw. Does everybody know what an auto rickshaw is? A three-wheel, dangerous mode of transportation. And then they attach this world's largest megaphone on top of that, and then they very annoyingly keep saying, vote for me, so and so, vote for me, and they go through every single neighborhood, starting at dawn, correct? And the only way of surviving it is to have some Vedanta and to understand this too shall pass. So we have that, very annoying. Even in this country, we sometimes have to resort to these kind of attention-getting gimmicks. Some of them rather creepy. Like when I first came into this country, I was just passing somewhere and I saw this thing. You know what I'm talking about? Some car dealership or something, and this balloon kind of a figure with a funny face and two hands going like this. And I said, this can scare children and leave them scarred for life. What is this? What are they trying to do? I asked my host when I first came to this country, and I was told that this is the way to attract attention, to come to visit the used car dealership, which nobody really wants to go into. And so like this, there are, even though things have modernized, there's nothing, the primitive has its place. It never gets out of style. And so this is what the whole thing is. So you can see the image of the town crier with the big drum, kettle drum, makes a lot of noise. It's got a metal base, and then this animal skin with some sticks that is beaten, and which is followed by the proclamation. Here the drum beat itself is the proclamation. And so it is rife with a lot of metaphors. And we still haven't seen what Vedanta is. Don't worry, we'll save it for the last. And so, what is this, what is this metaphor? What are some of these metaphors? You can say that the drum is the Upanishad, correct? It's the Pramana. And the one who is hanging it on his or her neck is the conveyor of that, the Acharya. And the Acharya is beating the drum, which is the Upanishad, which is Vedanta. Correct? You can say it like that. Or Vedanta is proclaiming itself. This is in the case of the active Kartari Shashti. So the Vedanta is proclaiming itself. And so what does the person who is beating the drum, who is he or she? Since the vision of Vedanta, that all that is here is one limitless whole, is non-separate from the person. There is no difference between the beater and that which is beaten. It's all one. And so the beating of the drum beat, proclaims what? The subject matter for which there is a lot of desire to learn. This is what is called Vedanta. Vedanam Antaha. This is how to resolve that compound. Antaha, the end of the Vedas. And this really doesn't make any sense. End of the Vedas means, does it include the Vedas or not? It has to include the Vedas. So if there is a book of knowledge, Veda means knowledge. If there is a book of knowledge called Veda, or 4 of them, doesn't matter. In the beginning there was only one. Bhagavan Vyasa, divided it into 4 and gave it to families to keep. Because he was a sage with a lot of vision, foresight. He knew that perhaps India would be colonized from everyone, starting from what? Alexander, not so great, all the way to not so great Britain. And so this knowledge was in the danger of being lost. But it is impossible to destroy this knowledge if it is in the head. That is what the ancients had in mind. That which is the knowledge is in the head. So unless one cuts off every single head, you cannot, Vedanta and Veda will always be ahead. You cannot. It will not go. And this was an ingenious method in which it was given to the families to hold. Even now, introducing oneself to the elder, one says, Abhivadaye, I introduce myself traditionally. I belong to such and such a clan, Gotra, and I am Rig Shakhadhyayi. I am the learner of the Rig Veda. I belong to I am the holder of the Rig Veda. And the modern young person may not even know one mantra of the Rig Veda, but still that, they have the authority to say that. It's amazing, really amazing. After Gayatri, if all you know is Gayatri, which you have been saying occasionally, you are still Rig Shakhadhyayi, Yajush Shakhadhyayi. To this day it continues. It's a marvelous tradition, I tell you. It's really, really marvelous. And then, so going back to this, so Veda means a knowledge, book of knowledge, or just all the mantras in the form of knowledge. And what kind of knowledge we presently see. And then we have what is called end of the Veda. Sometimes people, split it wrongly, especially at these interfaith meetings. I was at this World Parliament of Religion. And suddenly I heard, I was actually just going to my talk. But sunai diya kuch, I heard that people were saying something. I heard the word Vedanta. So naturally the footsteps slowed down. I wanted to hear what this person was saying. I didn't even see who the gentleman was. I heard a man's voice. And he said, Vedanta, Vedas Danta, the teeth of the Veda, where you take a bite out of samsara. This all where the skull starts to think, yeah, this is not correct. Yeah, this is really not all right. So it is the last chapter of this book called Veda, which is itself funny. Because if I have a book, Agatha Christie, some mystery book, or a history book, doesn't matter. Because history is also very full of mysteries anyway. So, if I have a mystery book, I don't say, if supposing somebody asks me, what are you reading? I don't say Agatha Christie and the last chapter of this book. I don't say them separately mentioned. Or if I don't say world history and the last chapter of world history. Ye kya baat hai? What is this? This makes no sense. But here it makes sense. Really. And for this we have to see what these two, Veda and Vedanta, what they are. So you have to see what the first chapters of the book might be in order to appreciate the last chapter, which is called Vedanta. So if we take an excursion into the first few chapters of this book, it is actually very interesting. Because, even comparatively, you find that the first chapters of the book, called the Vedas, occupy a large amount of space. 84,000 mantras plus. So if you start chanting, you never run out. Because that mantra is, is a little part, is an anga of another mantra, then there is the angi, and then you chant that, and if you chant that, you have to chant this, and then you can just go on. So if you do Veda Parayana, you can go on for 10 days, no problem. You'll never repeat the mantra. You can go on and on and on, all new things to be covered. And comparatively, all the last portion of Vedanta, the Veda, called Vedanta, aka Upanishads, same thing. Are what? 4,000 mantras. You can see, more or less, approximately. So where is 84,000 and where is 4,000? And the 84,000 is also approximate. It will probably be more when it's all counted. Because there are different ways of reckoning. As I said, sometimes, when the two are chanted together, do you count it as two or do you count it as one? And in some sampradayas, they count it as one. So it may be even more than 84,000. So first you see the sheer volume of the first portion of the Vedas, which is also knowledge, which has something to tell, and which is all for the sake of the human being. It's all for the human being. It's all for you, really. And why is it for the sake of the human being? It is for the sake of the human being because with every cycle of creation, this knowledge of how to traverse this creation, how to manage our lives is given. This is, compassion of Bhagavan, you can say. Along with the cycle of creation, along with this mess called samsara, creation is not samsara. Creation, how one experiences it, is often samsara. So the way to come out of this samsara, this endless life of wanting, becoming, Pujya Swamiji used to say, this life of becoming is what is needing to, one has to pay attention to. And the first portion of the Veda is invaluable because it gives, it's a treatise in wish fulfillment. That's why it is so huge. All kinds of strange things. You open the book called Atharva Veda and you'll see what I'm talking about. How to make sure, not only that I excel in the next singing competition. This is an actual, mantra. Not only do I want to excel in the next singing competition, I also want to make sure there is no competition. How do I do that? May all the competitors have sore throats. When? On the morning of the competition. I don't know, this is actually there. This is actually there. Of course, then you have to read the fine print. That the person who practices this or, unleashes this will have to pay for it for several thousand lifetimes. That's the fine print. Nothing is free, correct? Because you're actually hurting somebody's chances. And you're not doing this, in a way that is, fully dharmic, because you're not going and asking them, do you want to have a sore throat? Or do you want to bow out of the competition and let me be the unrivaled winner? You're not going about it in a very transparent way. But it is there. It is all there. And then, there are all kinds of things which you will never want. How to get all these things. How to get rain. Kariri. It's a very big thing. And some German scientist who had a lot of time and wanted to test this ritual went and did it in the Sahara Desert on on the day that it was least possibility of rain. It's a 9-day ritual, at the end of which a few drops came suddenly in the sky. Then he went to the rainiest place in India. What is that? Cherrapunji. Everybody knows this history lesson. And he went there on the only day that it didn't rain. And he made it rain on that day also, after doing this ritual. How? Nobody knows. Of course, to say the least, he was not very popular with the locals after that. They must have driven him out of town, because the one shopping day they had, one day they had to visit their relatives. He came and rained on their parade, literally. So, somehow it works. Unknown, means known end. The end is known, that I want rain. The means somehow by offering something into the fire and saying Varunaya Namaha Indraya Swaha, suddenly the rain comes. How? Nobody knows. Putra Kameshti. How to have a child. This is how Rama was born. Lord Rama was not the founder of Hinduism. Many people think that, who don't know. He was born into the tradition through this Putra Kameshti Yajna. Another, Ishti means a ritual. And this ritual was how to have a child for the people who are desirous of having children. Very expensive, so it's made sure that only kings and other people who can afford to raise the child, they alone can have children. So like this, all kinds of desires, there is a big, big ritual. In fact, one has to have the fires burning all the time, Agnihotra. And then you keep, offering in order for what? Some desire is to be fulfilled. And then let's say the desire is not fulfilled. Whose problem is that? Can you say that the ritual doesn't work? No, this is Apaurushaya. This is a revealed knowledge. Veda does not have an author. It is revealed to sages in states of meditation. And so really speaking, you cannot blame that because it is Apaurushaya, it is revealed knowledge. Therefore you cannot blame the ritual. And the ritual itself will say that maybe you had to make 108 bricks without cracks. Maybe there was one crack in the 96th brick and you didn't notice. And if you did notice, what would you do? You can't just replace the 96th brick. You have to go from 1. Yes. It's like that board game. What is that? Snakes and ladders. So you keep rolling the dice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Acha hai, small ladder. From 6, you went to 13. Fantastic. See, even the bell rang. And then, fantastic. And then again you throw the dice. And then from 13 you go to 15. 15 you go to 25. Fantastic. And then you go all the way like this, throwing the dice and moving your little pawn. You go to 98. 98th square, there is one bada snake, a python. Goes all the way back to square 1. That's how the expression came. Back to square 1. And then you have to start all over. Giving a new spelling to the word board game. B-O-R-E-D. That's what it is. Because this gets to be very boring. I feel like I'm reaching in terms of desire fulfillment. Back to square one. Me plus few desires fulfilled is not going to help. And then what? More desires come. They are like the hair on the head. As soon as you cut it, and then you come back home, by the time you come back home, it has grown back. A few nanomillimeters, but still, it is there. It's endless. And so, fulfilling desires is wonderful, but it is not a lasting solution to what? To this feeling that I am a desiring person, to this notion. There is a notion which one thinks of oneself as a desiring individual. And there is no end to that. And therefore all these exotic rituals, or not so exotic rituals, I want this, I want that, I want wealth, Shri Sukta Homa, I want health, Sudarshana Homa, I want this, I want that, I want marriage, I want to get along with people, with the person I'm married, and Aikyamata Homa, and then what? I don't want the marriage, another Homa, how to separate from that. And like this, there's no end to it. Because the gamut of human desires are always changing. And by some strange irony, what I really want is that which is unchanging. It's a setup. In other words, it's a board game. After a while, one realizes this is full of ladders and snakes, the first portion of the Veda. And then from there, what should I do? Where should I go? Because the desiring person can never come to an end. Endlessly desiring person now finally turns or becomes ready to study the matter, the subject matter of what we call Vedanta, the last portion of the Veda. And what is this last portion of the Veda? That which fulfills all the desires? No. That which knocks off this notion, I am a desiring person. Therefore you see, it is valid to say Veda and last chapter of Veda. Because they are Tamah Prakashavat, they are like night and day. In fact, they have no connection at all to one another. In the first portion of the Veda, what do we have? We have the wanting person getting a lot of band-aids, the crying baby getting some attention, a little hug, a little squeeze, some little milk, everything. And then what? In the last portion of the Veda, it's not the same baby at all. It's a baby that has grown up to understand that this crying, there must be some lasting solution to this cry. And what is this cry? This cry is, a strange cry. Because if I am a crying person, I should always be crying, correct? I should be crying in the morning, I should be crying in the evening, I should be crying in the afternoon, and I should be crying at night. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. Nobody cries in sleep. One may cry oneself to sleep, but in sleep nobody is crying. Correct? In sleep there is only one thing and one thing alone. What is that? Ananda. Yeah. Ananda means joy. Limitless joy. At least limitless until the alarm clock rings the next morning. That's why, all these doctors nowadays, if you really want to be on the cutting edge, you have to specialize in sleep disturbances. Those are the people that are making it, these sleep doctors. They watch you sleep and you are all, what is that? various nodes are coming out of various things. How you sleep, I don't know. How do people sleep under that? And somebody is watching. And then the doctor watches you sleep. And all these various gadgets measure the depth of REM states and how long and how restful and all these things. They can do all that. So in sleep, what is it? Nothing is there except Ananda. In fact, sleep is a daily reminder of one's own nature that one wants to be, which is what? A non-desiring, non-demanding, contented, fulfilled, appreciative being. How long? Forever. This is what it is. So in sleep one goes there every time, except one is not enjoying it in the moment. It is enjoyed in hindsight when you wake up. Oh, what a wonderful sleep. I forgot everything. I didn't know anything. Sukhamaham asvapsam nakinchid avedisham. I didn't know anything. I slept so well. This is what the whole thing is. So, sleep is a daily, recurring experience of Advaita, non-duality. Because it is this duality, meaning the difference between I, the desirer, and the objects of desire which are always elusive. That is the cause of pain, separation, anxiety, sorrow, and fear. This is what it is. The fear is between myself and the desiring individual and the objects of desire that seem perpetually away from me, and no matter what I do, I can't become one with them. All becoming one is until the separation occurs. Viyogantaha sanyogaha. Viyogantaha means until, up to the point of separation is the definition of union in Sanskrit is until separation. And that's what it is. You come together and then what? Fall apart. That's what it is. And this is what causes anxiety, because there is this wanting to be one with everything. And what is this everything? There is this wanting to be one with people, others, things in the Jagat. There is wanting oneness with the source of the Jagat, if there is one, which is Brahman, Ishvara. And there is a wanting to no longer be split within oneself. The conflicts, all the right and the wrong, and the child and the adult, and the fearful one, the tearful one, and the contented one. I just want that integration. So the desire is for the oneness, and the desire is really for that elusive thing which is called forever, which one constantly throws onto objects, relationships, events, circumstances. This is what the whole thing is. I look for the infinite in all places finite, in all things finite. This is the problem. But then where is this infinite? It is you. This is what Vedanta says. It is you. How do you know it is me? Because that's what it is. You are unlike anything else that there is here. There is nothing other than you. Because just like you cannot make you cannot compare the light that illumines a pot, Deepa, that illumines a ghata, a pot. They are not on par. One is the illuminer and the other is what? Illumined object of illumination. The two are not alike. They are not on a par. Similarly, you are Chaitana. You are that sentient being who has some ideas about who you are that are incongruent with what you really want to be. This is what the whole premise is. What you want to be is an appreciative, non-demanding, contented person. And what you feel you are is a demanding, complaining, desiring individual. And the two are, completely opposite. That's why the sleep experience, which the Mandukya Upanishad uses so beautifully, is very important to show that in sleep there is total cessation of samsara. This is what is samsara. Demandingness is samsara. Feeling of lack is samsara. Wanting to do something to feel better is samsara. Not succeeding and feeling like a failure is samsara. Being afraid of success, samsara. Being afraid of failure, samsara. This is not enough, samsara. Oh my God, OMG, OMG, samsara. This is what is samsara. But then, if you are a samsari, meaning one who is subject to samsara, you should be happy. Because if that is the reality, swabhavasya na nivrittihi, because there is no way to remove that which is one's nature. If samsaritvam is my nature, then I should be contented being a samsari. Are you contented being a samsari? Nobody will say yes. Nobody will say yes. They'll say no. Well, how come? Because I know somewhere that I am not a samsari. It is sensed. Somehow it is sensed, without even being told it is sensed. One is hardwired to seek freedom from this state of affairs, from this way of being. One is, in other words, hardwired for liberation, moksha, from this notion that I am incomplete, I am wanting. And that is why the first few chapters of what is called the Veda and Vedanta, the last chapter, are completely different from one another in 4 respects. What are those 4 respects? This is important to understand, and I'm sure you've encountered it before as well. The first one is that, the subject matter is totally different. Vishaya. What is the subject matter of the Veda? How to keep the desiring person going and going and going and going and going. Oh, then after that life is gone. Don't worry, there's another life. And the same desires continue. Going and going and going and going and going. That is the Vishaya. How to keep the samsari afloat. Glub, glub, glub. Glub, glub, glub. Coming up for air and then going down, sinking, feeling, glub, glub, glub again. So everybody is a sand. Plot sand, jet sand. Piece of driftwood in this large ocean called the Jagat. So this is one. And then what? And then what is the subject matter of Vedanta? The subject matter of Vedanta is the cessation of the desiring person in the light of the fact that the seeker is the sought. That you are really, what you have to do is remove the mistaken notion that you are a samsara. That is the subject matter of Vedanta. So the Vishaya is 2 different things. Here in the first portion of the Veda, the Vishaya is what? How to keep the desires and the desiring person going. And here in the Vedanta, the Vishaya is how to knock off the desiring person. Very important. Vishaya is totally different. And then who is the Adhikari? Adhikari means who is the person qualified to study the first portion of the Veda and Vedanta. First portion of the Veda you don't have to do anything to qualify. It's the uninterrogated jiva. If you are an uninterrogated jiva, it's enough. And then if you are married, it's even better, because to do all these rituals you have to be married. That's all. You get married, you can immediately do the rituals and no problem. And then there are some other small things that, you have to give some in charity, and you have to do this, that, whatever it is. You don't need preparation for the first portion of Veda to be qualified to perform. yajna. And one already has desires, so it's not that you have to be a desiring person, because that's the notion that with which we start. That is our starting notion. So what is the adhikari? Who is the qualified person to study Vedanta? One who has understood that this board game is a boring game. The adhikari is different. Here the adhikari in the first instance is trying to buttress himself or herself with a lot more things, shore up some things to make oneself more and more acceptable, to not have self-loathe, to have self-acceptance. Something or the other is needed. And in the second instance, in Vedanta, the adhikari, the person who is qualified to study, wants to let go of the notion, I am the desiring person, that I am an incomplete individual. Totally different Vishaya, totally different adhikari. And then prayojana. What is the use? What is the benefit? What is the benefit of the first portion of the Veda? The benefit of the first portion of the Veda is that one gets an instant gratification. Something comes true, or at least one is kept out of trouble. If you are performing, if the person is kept busy performing Sri Sukta Homa, they are not robbing a bank. You see, they are kept busy doing something disciplined, something nice. It's prayerful. And then, what is the prayojana of the second portion, the last portion of the Veda? Removal of cessation of samsara totally in the light of the truth of the self. The drumbeat of the self that proclaims you are non-separate from the cause of the universe, you are none other than Ishvara. So there is nothing to want, there is nothing other than you, there is nothing like you, there is nothing unlike you. You are the only thing there is. And so all the things that you've been gathering in order to make yourself acceptable, it is of no use. You are already free of sorrow, you are already free of fear. So the prayojana is completely different. In the first instance, the prayojana is to fulfill the desires. In the second instance, the prayojana, the purpose is to remove the notion that one is a desiring person. And finally, the sambandha. Sambandha means what is the connection between the book of knowledge, whether it's written or oral, doesn't matter, and the person to which it is speaking. In the first instance, instructions are given. It's like the first portion of the Veda is like a cookbook. If you're hungry and you read a cookbook, what will happen? You'll get even more hungry. That's what will happen. And then you don't have time to cook, you'll have to eat the book in order to satisfy the hunger. So, it's not enough to know how to do this. Then you have to get the ingredients and then actually put it into operation. So, the first portion of the Veda is karma pradhana jnanam. It is knowledge, all right, but it is heavily based on keeping the doer going. What to do now, what to do next. Because if you just read, a book on how to make money, you can't just take the money to the bank. It's not there. You have to actually operationalize whatever is there. Same thing. In the first portion of the Vedas, the same exact thing. And then, but in the last portion of the Veda, the sambandha, the connection between the book and the person to whom the book is speaking is pratipadaka pratipadya sambandha. It's a book that reveals the nature by knocking off the false or the wrong notions that one has held about oneself. You see, so completely different books, completely different uses, completely different topics, completely different relationships. And therefore, in the tradition, it is valid to say Veda and the last chapter of the Veda. And so the last chapter of the Veda is called Vedanta. which is an autobiography of what? A yogi? No, of a bhogi, we should say. So the first portion of the Veda is what? Is addressed to a bhogi. Bhogi means conspicuous consumer. And the last portion of the Veda is addressed to, finally, this bhogi who wants to get rid of the notion, I am bhogi iti. This notion has to go. Really. So there is this famous book, right? What is that? Autobiography of a yogi. And many people, have come into their spiritual self after reading that. Yeah. So this is an autobiography. Vedanta means autobiography. But but there are so many people in the room, and then forget this room, in other rooms and all over the world, 7 billion people. How can it have one autobiography? How can there be just one story? Because we all want different things, we all look different, we all have different backgrounds, we all have different stories and histories and mysteries. And how can it just be one autobiography? Because really speaking, it is not looking at whatever you can record and whatever is very obvious. In fact, Vedanta is not interested in the obvious. The obvious is very boring to Vedanta, to the drumbeat of Vedanta. It's very boring. So it is looking at that which is not obvious. But yet, in that which is not obvious, in the subtexts and in between the lines, the truth rests. This is what is Mahavakya. Mahavakya does not say 5 is equal to 5. That's boring. And that's obvious. And what will it say? It will say 5 plus 4 is equal to 20 minus 11. What? And if one is a 4th grader, one will see, oh my God, single digits, plus sign on one side, double digits, minus sign on the other side. How can the two be the same? And here is where Vedanta speaks, because some resolution has to be done. Something has to be understood. And the resolution of 5 plus 4, and when you actually count up to 9, oh yeah, okay. That is called Svatmavidyanandaji vichara. And then when you resolve on the other side, that is called Tatpada vichara. What is Ishvara, what is Jiva, what is the Jagat that is coming in between the two? The nature of this, the truth of this. This is what is the subject matter. And so the autobiography is like a mirror that makes everyone look their best. That's why it's a universal autobiography. When you go to buy a mirror, you have to be, looking carefully. Does it make me look slim? Yeah. Does it make me, or is it like one of those funny mirrors that you see in Disneyland? This is not like a Disneyland mirror. It doesn't distort. It shows you exactly not how you are, but how you want to be. Not how you think you are, but how you want to be. And this is universal. Do you want to be compassionate? Yes. Do you want to be all loving? Yes. Do you want to be free? Yes. Do you want to look wonderful? Yes. Do you, look meaning? Have that feeling of, being wonderful. Do you want to feel wonderful? Yes. Do you want to feel happy? Yes. How long? Always. And this is what it shows you are. So it is an autobiography that is worth looking into, because by God, the kinds of autobiography that we have written of our own lives are pathetic and need to be, need a makeover badly. Badly in need of a makeover. And the Vedanta Dindima is one such autobiography that, that decodes the Upanishads in a manner that is easy to assimilate and understand, because it's in the form of verse. So that's always much easier to assimilate than prose. especially if it's in Sanskrit. And the Vedanta Dindima it looks simple, but it is not. So each verse is very, very involved and very true to the mirror that is Upanishad. And so with these words, let us enter into the text and let us at least chant the first verse, and then we'll look into it in detail tomorrow. Vedanta Dindimas Tattvam Ekam Udghosayanti Yat Astam Purastat Tat Tejaha Dakshinamurti Samyitam. Together. Vedanta Dindimas Tattvam Ekam Udghosayanti Yat Astam Purastat Tat Tejaha Dakshinamurti Samyitam. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. If there are one or two questions that are pressing, I can answer them now, if people want.